Hey guys, welcome to Quinian's Budget Crafts. So let's detour from our normal stuff and play with some cigar boxes. If you visit your local smoke shop, you can get these wooden cigar boxes for about $2 a piece. They are covered in logos, maybe some engraving and stickers and stuff. So the first thing you're going to want to do is sand it down. On this particular one, the hinges that are on it are basically big staples. So it's not hard to just take them out and reuse them, but they also have the manufacturer's logo on there, so it depends on how willing you are to keep it cigar box like. Either way, go ahead and pop the hinges and hardware off and sand it down. On this particular cigar box, I really don't like the lid because it's not cut even and it's plywood. So I have an idea when I have two more of this style that I haven't messed with yet to cut the sides and the front off to match the back, and then use two bottoms as the top and bottom of a whole box. When I get around to doing that, I will post pictures of it on Twitter, which I now have, by the way. So go follow me there. So what you're going to want to do is line this thing. I'm going to use some felt. These are 9x12 self-adhesive or sticky back felt pads. You can get a pack of 5 of them from Amazon for about $10, or you can get them at Hobby Lobby. You don't have to use red, I just happen to like it. Now, one thing to note about this felt, though, is as soon as you tear that paper backing off, this stuff gets real stretchy. So it doesn't matter how careful you are cutting it, you're going to have it warp on you. So go ahead and measure from the edge of the ruler to the top of the shortest wall, which is the back wall on these. Make some marks on your felt and cut out some strips. So this thing is a rotary cutter. It's used for fabric and leather, but it works really, really well on this. You, of course, don't have to use a rotary cutter, but I have one, so I'm using it. If you're using the same felt that I am, go ahead and cut out 2 strips from the long side, and then 2 strips from the short side, and that will still leave you enough to cover the bottom. Get everything all measured and cut out, and then stick a strip in along the short wall. Now, one quick note here, you do want to put your hardware back on before you put the strip on, especially if you're using these staple hinges. Because when they go through, they poke all the way through and you've got to bend the end over. So if you're using the staple hinge, go ahead and poke it through and then just use a small hammer to tap the ends of it over. Get all your pieces put on the sides. And if you have a little overlap, that's alright. Just take a brand new X-Acto blade and trim it off. And then go ahead and stick down the bottom. Like I said, no matter how careful you cut it, you're definitely going to have some overlap because it stretches and stuff. That's not a problem. It'll be fine. Just cut it off with the X-Acto and then use a little spoon tool or pokey of some kind to mash it in so that the seams blend into each other. Once it's all trimmed up and everything fits and there's no gaps or weird overlaps, if you did end up fraying the felt a little bit, you can burn that down with a lighter as long as you're pretty careful about it. And now I'm going to stain it. You could use whatever wood stain or anything you like. You might want to do this before you put the felt in, depending on what you're doing exactly. I am going to use a Gel Antique by Tandy's Leather. It's a leather dye meant for finishing, but it looks really good on this wood too. This stuff is made to dye skin though, so wear some gloves. Unless you want brown hands for the next week. If you are going to use a leather dye, just use a damp sponge. Put a good amount of the dye on the sponge and then smear it around really fast before it has a chance to pool anywhere. Even though I don't really like this plywood, it does have a pretty cool look. For the inside of the lid, I'm going to put some paper, so I don't really need to stain that. And then do the inside edges very carefully. Go around doing the outside. If you're doing this after putting the hinge on, that's alright. Just give the sponge a little squeeze and it'll squirt some watered down dye in there. Don't forget the bottom. And that little bottom lip on the lid needs it too, because there won't be paper there. Go around, clean up any excess or squeezy bits you got anywhere so it's all nice and even, and let that dry. So this sheet is a cheat sheet made by Uzuro on Reddit. Sorry about that pronunciation. I did modify it to fit my lid here, but you can find the link to his original Reddit post and his original sheets down below. Just print it out and trim it to fit your lid. Because the lid on this one is such an odd shape, I'm not going to worry about trying to measure that. I'll just leave it oversized and trim it after it's stuck on. The best way to stick this on is to take the paper outside and spray the back of it with some Super 77. Then bring it back in and stick it on, making sure you got it perfectly flat against the bottom of the lid. Then just stand the box on its side and very carefully trim the excess paper off. When you're doing this, you want to pull the blade towards yourself or towards the top of the lid while you're cutting so that you pull the paper into the lid instead of pushing it off. Get it all trimmed up and there you go. I promise this does deaden the dice sound. You can't hear that because I do voiceovers, but it really does help. And you can get fancier with your boxes too. This one I painted a D20 on, just using a stencil. This is a different cheat sheet. It was made by the guys over on olddungeonmaster.com, also linked below. In this box I added a divider so I can have a little notebook and a pencil on one side, my dice on the other. I mean, you can really set these up however you want to. Put some magnets in the lid. On this box here I reversed the stencil and I put some fancy things in the corner. This one came with this little clasp on the front. And I put 2 dividers in here and painted the top of them gold. And then the lid portion is the rolling section. These little sections with the dividers hold a bunch of dice and these little status tokens. And of course you could line it with leather too if you want to. So when you sand these down with the corners there, you can round them over or you can leave them 90 degrees. And then use some of these cool little metal corner thingies. Both the corner caps and the ones that are on that black box up there are like $5 for 80 of them on Amazon, so go nuts. So there you go, guys. Dice boxes. You can really do these however you want. Depends a little bit on what boxes are available at your tobacco store, but swing in there next time you're in town and see if they have any for sale. They're usually practically giving them away. If you want the papers that I used in the lid, do look in the description below. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon or Ko-fi. Also, like I mentioned earlier, I now have Twitter, and that's where I'll be posting most of my quick updates. So be sure to go over there and follow me. But anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. Don't forget to like, share, all that good stuff, and I'll catch you on the next one.